Are you struggling to write a song? You can't figure out a good chord progression, melody, lyrics, or maybe you get the song started but you can never seem to finish it. Well, stop worrying, man. I'm here to solve all your problems. Let me show you the way. In this 3-part series, I'm going to show you how I write, record, produce, and release all my songs. And I'm going to use my recent release coping mechanisms as a base. I'm Jacob Dewitty. I've worked with over 30 clients as a producer. I've released at least 20 of my own songs as an artist. So let's hop into it. So number one, we want to figure out what the purpose of the song is. So generally there's like 4 or 5 broad song topics that people write about. So number one, it's usually love, death, a specific story, or specific emotion. But of course it can be anything. Just to hit the ground running, you can start with one of these topics. So this one's about coping mechanisms. It's about the specific emotion of hopelessness and then overcoming that. So lyrics are going to be sad, but we're going to have some major chords underneath. So starting with this broad purpose in mind, it's going to shape all the decisions we make when we start to write. So then you want to think about, how do we convey this purpose? So how do we convey hopelessness while also delivering some kind of message of hope? So this is where you have, instead of just making a sad song, we're going to make a pop song. How Did It Hear had major chords, which are super happy, but then some sad lyrics. And of course, with those lyrics, I told a story. So now that we've got the purpose, we're going to start to write. So what you start with is up to you. It's generally based on your strengths. So think about how you listen to music. So when I listen to music, I generally don't listen to lyrics mostly. I usually am listening for the production, I'm listening for the instruments, everything like that. So I'm definitely a music first kind of guy. So of course, I'm gonna start with some kind of instrument idea. So you can start with piano, you can start with guitar, whatever. But if you're more of the lyric side, you're a vocalist, maybe you'll start with lyrics. Today we're gonna start with an idea. So I got this simple idea. I listen to a crap ton of R&B songs, and basically the main riff I keep hearing is, or some variation of that. So I knew how to do that. So basically then we move on to the chords. So now we want to, whatever that bass idea was, for me it's that simple. All we got to do is write around that. Real quick, make sure you like and subscribe if you're liking this video. So I'll put a list of the most popular chords. Usually most pop songs use very similar chord progressions. So you can literally just take one of these chord progressions, choose a key, and then run from there with that. So in this song, the chords I used, I'm partially a jazz pianist, so I like to add super embellishments, which isn't super normal for pop. So in pop, maybe you just want to do a 1 in D major. What I did, I add the 9th and 7th. So this is a D major 9. So that means that's D major, E is the 9, C sharp is the 7th. Gives this really jazzy feel to it. So the whole chord progression I did was 1, minor 6, 1, minor 6, 4, and then I went to minor 2, and then 1. And yeah, don't overcomplicate this, especially in pop. You're gonna have very similar chord progressions. So basically all the chord progressions are built off, if we're in C major, they're all gonna be built off of 1, 5, 4, minor 6. Those are the most common. You've probably heard these progressions all the time. You can probably think of like a million songs that use that exact same chord progression. So yeah, just choose one, see what fits the vibe, what fits the purpose of the song, and then we can start to make a melody on top of that. So for my melodies, I usually think of it more from a music theory perspective. So I like to start in the 7th, which is that C sharp. And just think of, you can even hum it, just. And I use that little idea in the melody as well. So we're just gonna go ahead, we can hum it. Maybe you already wrote the lyrics and you can just hum those lyrics until you find a melody over these chords. So then we have that bass melody, and then we're just gonna embellish that a little bit the next time. So we'll repeat it. And then this time I'll go up to a B instead of down. And then you wanna end the phrase. So you might not know a bunch of music theory, but this is really just humming it, listening to a bunch of songs, and then trying to figure out what sounds good to you. So next song structure, if we're in pop, it's pretty much just gonna be intro, verse, chorus, bridge, final chorus. So generally how the structure goes, you have some kind of hook intro. For me, I did a little piano intro. Then the verse is gonna tell some kind of story. Chorus is gonna be a little more hyped. Verse 2, Second chorus, the bridge is gonna be something really different. So for mine, I actually went into a little bit EDM, but you can do whatever you want with the bridge. It could be different lyrics, different chords. You just gotta change something up so that the listener stays interested. And then the final chorus is gonna be the height of the song. So think of it like a story. So you have the intro, you have the rising action. Chorus is the climax. You have falling action, another chorus. Then you have the bridge, and then you have the final, which is the climax of the very whole song. So far we have the purpose, we have our main idea, we have the chords and the melody. Now we're gonna go on to lyrics. So with lyrics, I always just start with the rhyme scheme. So generally it's gonna be A, B, A, B. So for this one, nothing left to try, I died, A, B. Then you just make another one. You could even use those same ones, aligned, blah, blah, blah. So you get the general idea. And sometimes what helps me is just the free write. Just start writing a bunch of lines, and then essentially you can take the best lines and just kind of splice them together in a way that makes sense. Usually writer's block happens when we're judging our ideas too hard. We're like, the chord progression is good, the melody, the lyrics. But the only way to songwrite is just to get it out and then revise from there. So you could free write like a whole 3 pages, or maybe you just dive straight in and you write the lyrics. But ultimately I just keep that rhyme scheme in mind when I'm writing. And then in terms of the lyrical content, so because this is supposed to be a meaningful song, of course, in the first verse, generally the verses, I want to identify the problem. So what's the problem of the song? What's the song about? So in the first verse, I talk about the hopelessness. Then the chorus, I talk about it a little bit more, but then solve it because I want there to be some hope or whatever. So essentially, think about the verses as the story, and then the chorus as the main message of the song, because that's going to repeat like 3 times. Nice, so now we're gonna think about the theory a little bit. So now we're gonna add the extra embellishments. So we have the base of the song written. We have what we're doing, we have the idea, we have the chords, the melody, and the lyrics. So again, from a theory perspective, you can search your favorite songs and see what they do. So one thing I did in some of the verses, so you wanna figure out ways to change it up a little bit. So everything isn't the same and it doesn't get super boring. So one thing I did, you can change the chord progression up a little bit. So in one of the verses, I did, and then instead of going, I went to this. So that's a G major 9. And then I walked down to G minor 13 and then resolved it. So just little super interesting things like that, because they're not expecting it. Especially in a pop song, they're just expecting it to be the same 4 chords the whole song. So you can add little interesting things like that. Also with catchiness, one thing that helps with catchiness is just different rhythms. So I did a little bit of polyrhythm here, which basically means 2 different kinds of rhythms at the same time. So an example of that would be having a triplet going right on top of an 8th note. So eventually, so it would sound like, so on the right hand we have a triplet, triplet, and then we have 8th notes. And it just adds a little bit of interesting things. And the listener might not know all the music theory and what the heck you're doing, but it does add that little bit of interesting element. And then sneak some little things in there, so what I did there, it's super common in barbershop and stuff, just that little, and then I just resolved it. So basically with music theory, a lot of it is just dissonance and then resolution. So with that, you would not expect that in a pop song for sure, but it adds that extra element. It's like, what is that? In D major, we're here, but you can see it resolves nicely. Eventually I'm releasing an idea to release course, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. You can go ahead and show your interest down in the description so you can get even more detail, how to start from idea, songwrite, record, etc., all the way up to release. So structure, we want to think about intensity. So at the beginning we're gonna have, depends on how you want to start it, but generally the verse is going to be a little bit quieter and the chorus is going to be more intense. So basically you can either add more instruments. What I do is just add more octaves, add more rhythms, everything like that. You don't have to complicate it too much because this is pop, and then of course the little trick I do is to go higher in the register in the piano. It sounds a lot softer. So generally verse 2, since you have that huge intense chorus, verse 2 is usually a little bit softer because it does that little contrast, keeps the viewer interested. and it helps you tell a story. Because that's really what songs are about. Either you're just expressing an emotion, or you're telling a story, something like that. So keep in mind that purpose all the way through the songwriting process. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's pretty much it. Make sure you watch part 2 of this series. It's gonna be killer, man. It's gonna be killer. So yeah, let's do it. I'll see you there.